Pretend awesome!
What I just said.
Hi, welcome to Plus 10 to Awesome. I'm here with Stephen DeBaun, Ars Victor.
Take two.
They're actually 3 weeks into their Kickstarter, and on the last week of it, and they're promoting it here at GameX. And we're just sitting down to talk to him, see what his game is about, and talk about what's special about the game and why people will want to play it.
Yep.
Okay.
So Ars Victor is a two-player war game. It's a fast. We're billing it as the 1 hour war game. That was one of the things I really worked on in the last year and a half, was getting it down to that 1 hour time slot, so you don't spend all day playing a single game. I like spending all day playing a single game sometimes, but if you don't have 8 hours, you only have an hour, you can grab this. It's in the vein. It's a card-driven war game, so it's in the vein of Command and Colors Ancients, Battle Cry, Battle Lore, Memoir 44.
Right.
Do we go through the whole script again?
Just so everybody knows, because it's actually kind of cute. We're filming this and somebody walks right in front of the camera, and this is take two of that.
Right.
But in any case, you were talking about the way the points value works,
right,
and how this game is different than other games that are similar to it in the fact that you have a points value build like you would in the more traditional miniatures games like Warhammer and War Machine, where you put together your army with those points. But there's actually very special nuance to the points,
yes,
in the way that Ars Victor works. Why don't you explain that to us?
So the way it works is you start it with 80 points, and whatever points you don't spend, you can spend all of them if you want. Whatever points you don't spend end up as your glory. We call it glory. It's on the board. It's like sort of like your army health. So if you spent 60 points on your guys, you'd start with 20 on the board. If I started with 50 points of guys, I'd start with 30 on the board. Now in Ars Victor, glory only goes down. It's every time you kill an enemy unit, you knock down your enemy's glory. There are 3 capture points that sit in the center of the board, and every turn you sit on them, you bleed your enemy glory. So it's this constant struggle back and forth to knock the other guy out and knock him down to 0.
There's no way to gain glory.
There's no way to gain glory.
At that point, you're just losing.
You're only, whatever you started with, that's the most you're ever going to have. If you don't lose any, you keep it, but it's generally going to get chopped down throughout the game.
And as a game mechanic or balance, how much in your benefit is it to fill out all your points and be more powerful and more aggressive?
So a lot of that really depends on your army build, on what kind of strategies that army build lends to. So an example would be something like one of our stock lists is a Death from Above list. It's a very pricey list. I think you end up with 19 points on the board or something like that. And you have to play really, really aggressively. That's the thing. It's because it's so easy to just have that chipped away really easily.
Right.
So you've got to sit on the cat points. You don't. If I run with that, I've got 19. You've got 40. I can't let you sit on the cat points. I've got to get out there and I've got to hold them and I got to keep you off them. And if I lose 2 10-point units, I'm dead.
And this is one situation where the game or the meta game is pretty much as important as the game.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you really think about it, it's an hour to play, but you can obsess over the meta for days and days and days.
Right.
So,
in the same way with a 40k army build, where you're sitting there going, "Oh, do I want this one?" But instead of trying to spend all your points, you're really going, "Do I really need that 3-point conscript, or should I leave them at home to keep the extra 3 points of army health of glory?" So, and it's also fun to, if you start to learn your opponent and know what they're bringing and know how heavy they play, you can kind of add that into your strategy. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
Right. So it's hex based. So movement is done in hexes.
It is.
Are there units that are faster than other units? Slower units?
Absolutely. We have 12 different units in the base game. There's 50 counters, 12 different units. They range from the 3-point conscript, who basically is a meat shield. The joke is, if you're attacking with a conscript, you're doing it wrong. They should sit there and take hits and die until they're done. All the way up to the 10-point assault infantry, which you can drop anywhere on the board. It's tough. It's got tons of dice. It just crushes things.
If you were going to think about a genre of the game,
Sci-fi.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like I said, it draws from a lot of inspiration from different sci-fi games that you may or may not have played, and you can see a lot of sort of resemblances between some of the styles.
Great. So you're basically dealing with just regular flunkies all the way up to your elite Marines with heavy armor.
Yep.
And what.
Yep.
So how do you initiate conflict? Do you move into somebody else's hex? Do you move adjacent?
It's adjacent.
Are there ranged weapons that you can move across?
Yep. Each unit has at least 1 and possibly 2 attacks. Everybody has a close combat attack, and about half the units have a ranged attack of small arms or heavy weapons, which lets you fire it multiple hexes out. There's a counter-attack mechanic where if you attack the guy and they're still in the hex after the battle, they get a free shot back at you. If you knock him out, you can follow up. So there's a lot of little, very simple, interesting decisions to make. And kind of when you put them all together, you find that, wow, there's a whole bunch of depth to this. There's like, oh, I could be doing this, or I could be doing this. So.
Yeah, I like games that are very easy to pick up. But then when you start playing, there's so much nuance within it. That the replayability is great, and you can just keep going. Which is one of the problems that I have with purely scenario-based games, is because you're basically playing the same scenario over and over again, and you're sort of relying on the random modifiers of dice or cards or whatever
to make
really
it different.
Make it different. And when you have something that's a points build, you're trying different armies. Like I said, the meta game makes it a little bit more entertaining. What are the basic statistics for each unit?
Okay, so you have each unit has hit points, number of hits it can take. It has a cost, a glory cost. You have a close combat attack, possibly a ranged attack, movement, and then there's about, I want to say 10 or 12 different special abilities that some units have and some units don't. Some don't have any, some have like 4 of them. And those modify the way you take damage, the way you move, and really make the pieces distinct and interesting.
I see you have cards and you have dice.
Yes.
What is the dice mechanic like?
Okay, so the dice are used for combat. There are 3 different colors of dice. There's white, red, and blue. The white are the weakest, the red are the medium, middle, and then the blue are the murdering dice.
So kind of like a fantasy flight type of mechanic where you have dice that have more chance of success.
Absolutely. And it also sort of inspired by, if you remember Blood Bowl.
Oh, I love Blood Bowl.
So each of the die, like the white die has 1 hit face and 1 push face. The red die has 2 hit faces, 1 of them is special and 1 push. And so there's different results depending on what you're getting. It's not just hits or misses.
Right, okay. So what about the cards?
The cards? And this is one of the other big departures from sort of the traditional Memoir 44 thing. Then in a lot of those designs, you've got like a left, right, center thing, and you're moving guys on the left, you're moving guys on the right, whatever. In this, what you've got is, we call them banners, and they're rectangular pieces that sit underneath your square piece, so it exposes one side of the rectangle, and you're basically assigning each of your units to 1 of 4 suits when you put it on the board. The cards you have give you command points that are themed, that fit the suits of your units. So for instance, if you're putting down squares and circles, which are both gold, I think, and I've got a square gold command card, I can use those points to order my square unit, my circle unit, but the others, the silver units I can't use that gold card at all.
Okay.
So it's, instead of having that sort of geographical distinction of left, center, right, you actually get to choose which units do you want to have operating together, which units do you need to have working together.
So it's a command mechanic at that point where you're sort of randomizing an element of, fog of war, then you don't know which units you're going to be able to communicate effectively with and have them follow your orders.
Exactly.
Can the units Can the units have a basic independent action outside of that, or
nope.
just?
It's very like, I've got a card, I've got 5 points. What am I going to spend them on? I'm going to spend them on this and that, and boom, it's done. So you have a hand of 5 cards, so there is a little bit of planning. Right. But like one of the things that you pick up after about 2 or 3 games is that hand management and deck management are hugely important.
So you discard and you pick up cards.
Every turn you're playing one, and every turn you're picking up one. There's no discarding. You're never playing more than 1 card. But what can happen is, so like if I've got a hand of 4 gold cards and 1 silver card, I got to be really careful. I got to be really careful to spend that 1 silver, because if I do and I draw another gold, I can't move any of my silver units. Right. So experienced players will try to what they call play the hand, basically. So if I've got that, I'm going to play my golds until I'm out of golds, and then balance it back out again. Okay. In addition, there's another big departure from the Command and Color series. In most of those games, you have a single deck, and both players are drawing from the single deck. And because it's left, right, center, it works out, because if you're drawing a bunch of lefts, I'm probably drawing more rights, and we're both fighting on the same flank, because your left is my right. In this, each player has their own deck. So you've got 4 suits, 6 cards each suit, so you have 24 cards. You will never see those cards again. You go through that deck once. So there's no shuffling, and you play open discards. So you can see what the other guy's been playing, he can see what you've been playing. So if you played all your 7s, 6s, and 5s on the silvers, I don't have to worry about your silver units doing a massive offensive. You might be able to pull off 1 or 2 attacks, right, but I know you're sort of paralyzed on that flank, so that impacts my
And
strategy.
also it's sort of a time limiter as well, because
absolutely.
once you actually run through the cards.
Yeah,
that's great.
And very rarely do people actually get through the cards. The one thing that I noticed is it's a very aggressive game. It's be aggressive, and like a lot of veteran wargames. So I was raised on like SBI and Avalon Hill and that kind of stuff. And when you're brought up on that mentality, you tend to play very defensively, very conservatively. You want to keep your lines set. You want to make sure you can't flank you, kind of thing. In this, it's the opposite. You got to get out there. You got to control the center of the board.
Especially when you have objectives. Are the objectives set up in random positions on the board?
So what you end up with, which is the scouting part, which is another really fun part. Instead of just having a board and maybe putting some terrain tiles down, we have 9 map tiles that are about that big. Actually, 9 map tiles that are about that big. Not that one. The regular ones. Yes. Hey, here we go. These are map tiles. So you get 9 of these guys, and it's actually part of the gameplay. Setup is part of the gameplay. It's not just a slap them down on the table kind of thing. So each map tile has sort of one side that's kind of open and one side that's a lot more clogged. Here's the clogged side. Here's the open side. And you're alternating placing them. So if you're defending, you'll be placing 5 of them. I'll be placing 4 of them. Now we know what we know what armies we have at the time we're placing this. So if you've brought, let's say, 2 field guns and a bunch of medium infantry, and I brought a bunch of brutes and scavengers. So my brutes and scavengers, they have no ranged attacks, but they're all terrain, so they aren't impeded by fighting in terrain. So when I'm placing stuff, I want to place it like this because it's blocking your field guns' line of fire, lets my guys infiltrate, get up in your grill, and punch you.
How many tiles do you get in the base game?
I mean, 9 tiles. 9 tiles in the base game, and that's enough to make the whole map. It fits in with this little puzzle fit
and it's
kind of thing.
two-sided, so you can really just make a lot of mix and match.
Yeah. We figured out the combinations at one point. I think there's 30,000 different maps or something like that you could build with
these. You have scouts that go out and discover where the objectives are?
No. So what you end up doing is you've got 3 of these in the center, 3 of these in the center, and then each player has 2 of these and then 1 shorter one, so you end up with this sort of wedge-shaped thing.
Okay.
In each of the center map tiles, in the center hex is a capture point.
Okay.
So there's basically 3 that you need to be fighting over. There's your left, your right, and your center that you're fighting over the whole game.
Well, that sounds like a really fun and interesting game. You're playing with tokens right now, but I could see easily somebody putting together figures and actually playing it with miniatures if they wanted to.
Well, we actually have over here on the table, one of the things we're offering as part of an exclusive, no, actually this is not exclusive, but an add-on reward for our Kickstarter project is what we call the double wide. And it's not prone to hurricanes or being wiped out by floods. It's simply, these map tiles are literally
double the size?
Double the size. So regular game played with cardboard counters, double wide.
There you go.
And yeah, you use whatever miniatures you've got. I've got a bunch of Games Workshop miniatures, I picked up Mage Knight miniatures from years ago. You can get like, you know, 10 of them for
basically for
$2.
free.
Yeah, essentially. And so instead of using the counters with little hit markers, you put your guys down and you have a little stand-up banner, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a really great hybrid game, and I look forward to seeing it out, and maybe I might you guys are at the end of your little tournament, so we'll see.
Those are the 2 finalists right there.
Playing for $500, so there's some prize money out here. So go ahead and check these out. You have a website?
We have a website. We are arsvictor.com. You can also find us bit.ly/Ars Victor will take you directly to our Kickstarter page.
Fabulous.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, great.